really appreciate everybody's time. We've been talking about doing this forever, and we're finally getting around to it, because half the purpose for us at Andover Spine Center is to share information about how to have a healthier spine so you have a healthier nervous system. The chiropractic philosophy maintains that if you take care of your spine, your nervous system, your whole body works better. So we spend a ton of energy trying to educate people. People think I'm nuts because I have the TVs. Some of you are, most of you guys come in the office, they're upside down, so you can even get educated when you're hanging there. And, we put like a little saying on the board, the whiteboard, all the time. We try to make it relevant so that we teach the truth about what chiropractic is. And part of what chiropractic is a philosophy. So I thought it'd be appropriate before Nina comes up to talk just very briefly about philosophy. I'll try not to put you guys to sleep. But I think it's important if you have a little sense of what philosophy is, and it's not really this optional thing, but that you have to have one. And if you don't have one, that you actually do, you just don't think you do. And it dictates how you live, the choices that you make, including the way you eat. So the chiropractic premise to start is that the body is a self-healing, self-regulating organism, and the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord, is the master system and controller of that body. So the first thing that develops in utero, right, is that brain and the spinal cord. It tells you that really nothing else can happen without that. And then God said, that's so important. I'm going to put a skull around it and all these bones around the extension of the brain called the spinal cord to protect it, so that the transmission of impulses can happen to and from the brain to all parts of the body. So the chiropractic idea is that, therefore, deductive logic would surmise that any interference with that system is going to cause the body a lesser ability to self-heal and self-regulate. And I think, does that make sense? I think that makes tons of sense. But chiropractic has been watered down, so people go to the chiropractor now to treat back and neck pain. And we recognize as chiropractors that you can't just have a healthy spine to have a healthier nervous system. You need really to encompass four big essentials, we call them, the four essentials of life. And Nina's going to expound on that. But they are good food, good water, good oxygen, and good nerve supply. And when you have all of those things in better quality and quantity, you live a less diseased life, a more well life. So tonight I want to just say this, that we all hear knowledge is power, right? But I don't think it is, because I think most of you guys already know a ton. Especially the people who come in the office. You guys, this is like preaching to the choir tonight. But if knowledge was power, then we would probably be more powerful and would be more well, and we would do the right thing more often. And I think a lot of us know a lot, but we don't do the right thing a lot. So I think knowledge isn't power. I think implementation is power. And that since we're in such a healthcare crisis, we have increased heart disease, increased cancer, increased diabetes, increased obesity. The kids nowadays, the American kids growing up in this generation, they're the first American generation to have a lesser life expectancy than we have. And that is scary to me. And I think if you don't think that we have a problem, then you got to either be in denial or you just aren't paying attention. Because it used to be that there was an obese kid in the class, and in the whole school maybe, you know what I mean? And now it's everywhere. And we'll talk a little bit about that and how to avoid that. But in sort of how that happens, it's not really as much of a genetic issue as people are talking about. And so the problem, as I see it, is that we have a contradiction, a massive contradiction. And Ayn Rand is a very famous philosopher and author. Anybody here of Ayn Rand? And I love her objectivist mentality, and not everybody likes her. She could be a little controversial. But she said, wherever there is contradiction, there will be destruction. And that level of destruction will always equal that level of contradiction. And that's what we see. We have this system of health care that is medicine that really isn't health care. It's sick care. And we sign up for that. We're born into it. And so we expect to become a healthy society as a result. But that doesn't happen. And so we have an unbelievably sick society with all the disease rates going up, not down. And so I just want to quickly touch on that to give you guys a perspective before we get into the nutrition, so that you might value the seriousness of making that choice to really start stepping out and looking for a better solution to your diet, to your strategy. And Nina's going to make that easy, I think. In Gary Null's Death by Medicine, which is a phenomenal piece that I didn't sadly copy for you guys, but if anyone's interested in this, let me know at the end of the talk, I'll make copies of this. He says that a group of researchers have meticulously reviewed all statistical evidence to find out some of these shocking truths. And those are that right now, the number of people having in-hospital adverse reactions to prescribed drugs, and this is a result of living in this contradiction, is 2.2 million per year. The number of unnecessary antibiotics prescribed annually for viral infections, so they don't do anything for viral infections, right, are 20 million per year. The number of unnecessary medical and surgical procedures performed annually is 7.5 million per year. And the number of people exposed to unnecessary hospitalization annually is 8.9 million per year. This is, to me, this is really critical that you really understand the numbers, because we got to change. This is what makes me think we have to do this kind of stuff. The most stunning statistic, he says, is the total number of deaths caused by conventional medicine is an astounding 800,000 per year. 800,000 per year due to iatrogenic, doctor-caused mistakes. Error. So, I'm not saying that there's not a need for crisis care, for medicine. I've benefited from it, my family has. You have to have it. But when that's all, you put all your eggs in that basket, you're signing up for that kind of life, where you're going to be more prone to disease because you haven't done anything over here to actively participate in a well lifestyle. So when it was broken down into what that means, you know, this is, to me, this is pretty incredible. He says, no more, first of all, as few as only 5% of these are reported, no more than 20%. So what if you multiplied that by like 5? That number would be, I'm bad at math, what is that? All right, that's a lot. All right, and this was a Leap said the figure of these deaths were the equivalent to 3 jumbo jet crashes every 2 days. But when you count the lack of reporting, it becomes 6 jumbo jets crashing every day. So I mean, if air travel were like that, would you ever get on a plane? No. No way, right? But we all like, you know, hey, my doctor said I got to do this and got to have this procedure, whatever, and you know, this is what happens. So we have to change the way we live. Lastly, you know, you hear a lot of people say, well, you know, my grandmother had diabetes and my father had diabetes and I'm not diabetic yet. My doctor says I'm borderline. And you talk about diet, and they're not eating the right thing, but it doesn't matter because it's genetic. Right? And the problem with that is it makes people lazy. And you don't commit because it's genetic. I mean, does anybody in this room think that their health really depends on their genes? To be honest, is it about genetics? I mean, but I hear that a ton, right? We have a genetic, maybe, we have a set of traits encoded in our DNA predisposes us to a certain health outcome eventually. But Bruce Lipton, who is, this is an article that I copied for you guys because I think you got to read it. It'll change the way you think about, you know, genetics and how much of an influence that has on your health. He says this, I gave a copy of the article to you guys, the computer within. I just want to read this little bit to you. He says that the reality is that the brain of the cell is the skin. And I didn't learn this in school, I don't know about you guys. The interface of the interior of the cell and the changing world we live in. It's the functional element that controls life. He basically says he started to realize the cell was a chip and the nucleus was a hard disk with programs. Basically what he found out was that the behavior of the DNA would only be able to manifest based on what it was programmed to do by your actions, by the environment that you put your body in. And what would that environment be? What you eat. right? What you drink, what you breathe, right? Food, water, oxygen, nerve supply, right? So it's basically how we communicate with the environment is what's going to influence our DNA. And that's exciting to me because I think our blueprints are pretty good. You know, we just have to live better. So with that said, I'm excited that you guys are here and that Nina is going to give you guys a great presentation to help you make better choices that are practical, that you have a strategy to implement that's easy, that's something you can do every day. She'll talk about the cost of this stuff, all kinds of good information. I want to tell you a little bit about Nina while I'm introducing her. That I've known her for a long time. She's a great friend and practice member. She's a great wellness advocate. She's probably too humble to tell you a little bit about herself, so I'm going to. She's the owner of NutriPoise, a nutritional counseling and fitness counseling service, certified personal trainer, group fitness instructor, spinning instructor, masters in human nutrition. 2003, she qualified for the 2004 Olympic trials in the marathon event with a time of 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's mind-blowing. She's a USA Track and Field champion for the New England Grand Prix Racing Series and ranked number 3 master in the nation for 2000 through 2006. She's just a great friend, and I'm honored to have her. And I thank you guys for your time. I'll introduce you.
First of all, I want to reiterate what Chris said. I really appreciate everybody coming out.